It's like a can of ravioli in the back of your cupboard. You have it always there because you never know when you need it. And that video, once produced, will stay there.
Yeah.
And another thing is that if someone watched 3, 4, 5 videos of you, he already has built the trust. So it's like a hot lead you have never heard about when he contacts you. He's already willing to do something with you.
And he has understood a lot of things. I mean, in the 90s, when I started in our industry, you always had to start from zero with everybody. They were sent by some boss that actually knew something, and then you had to build them up to a certain level, and then explain why your solution is that smart. When it comes to you after looking at 15, 20 minutes of video, they already know your keywords and where we are in the system. And hello there, listener. Welcome back to Goldcast podcast. As you know, we are running 3 episodes about sales and marketing with the emphasis on marketing. And the first one about marketing, where we're bringing up old and fairly new ideas that has been around for ages. And today's episode, we would like to focus on channels. Having something to tell, you have to bring it out there some way. And in our dairy industry, channels are maybe not widely used or used at all, if I might say it. And this is something we would like to penetrate now, pretty much. Hang on to the end, because it will be actually some information about some other podcast episodes that will be more or less fulfilling and giving evidence what we're saying here. So, dear Fabian and dear listener, let's get into it. I mean, this is our favorite subject. Take it away, Fabian. Let's start with the first ones.
So with the first channels, before we dive into these channels, I think we have to define the content you're putting out. And I have a triangle for you again, which have 3 different categories. We do have the inspirational content, we do have the educational content, and the entertainment content. Now, what will be the ideal thing for the Foundry? Let's go through them. What is inspirational? Inspirational content is this live coaching when you want to summon these spirits from castings you already remelted to get your production better, or change the mindset to get better parts. That's nothing that will work for Foundry. The other thing is entertainment and education. And usually the ones looking for entertainment content are the ones that want to have more entertainment content. And there's the educational content where you teach something or give key information, and the viewer or reader or listener has an enlightened feeling. And if you master it perfectly, then you do both at the same time.
You kind of fool people, right?
You give them the medicine through the chocolate. So here is some educational content inside an entertainment thing.
Interesting. Isn't that what we all do in trade fairs? We pour beer to some customers to make them stay in our booth.
Exactly, and develop the relationship with these customers or prospects, and then continue the discussion further based on that good experience you had at their booth. And that's also already the first channel. Trade shows.
Yeah.
And all these conferences.
Yeah, but there's a difference here, right? Between a trade show and a conference.
There's a massive difference. In a conference, usually you're attending and it's a smaller amount of people, and you can present a certain topic to all of the people there. If you're at a trade show, there are hundreds of other booths as well, and you have to shine a light on everything else. And for that, you need a different channels to draw all the attention to your booth. And we jump into that a bit later.
I would say a conference for me is pretty often a scientific conference or with a high degree of academics.
Yeah.
Are they good to go at? I would say like this, to just finalize and define it. My view on this is that they are more for what's happening 10 years ahead. Very, very important stuff. But I would say it's more for the CEO and the technical director or maybe some of the members of the board or owners of a foundry group.
Yeah, but you're thinking about the casting conferences. But there are also conferences of other topic like electronic cooling or bodywork, doors, whatever. And they are a totally different set of people. And if you present your solution, which comes from a foundry, to these people, it can be a business development opportunity.
Yeah, Then I agree. So scientific conferences is something completely different. Absolutely. Reverting back to the trade fairs, I don't want to get stuck in the trade fair stuff. I always hate going to a trade fair, but once I'm there, I like it like fish like water, you know. You have a small queue of people, you're meeting interesting people, you can talk about duck hunting in the US, you speak about sushi in Tokyo, you meet friends. I mean, we're a family in this. Then it's great. Then it's really great. But I would say, of course, you want to drag in more interesting people. You want to build relationship, but it's also great, pretty cost-effective way to meet people and actually sit down. You can run what? I think I got 14 meetings during the Eurogas in 3 days. You travel once and you have 14 meetings. I mean, that's pretty good, right? So
Definitely, that's pretty good. But these meetings don't just happen spontaneously.
no,
They are planned, and you go away from the booth to have these meetings.
yeah, in a way, but also a warning there, listener. If you haven't participated in a trade fair and you have this magnificent thing that you want to present, planning meetings and trade fairs, it is like trying to time schedule a wild tiger escaping from zoo. If people say before lunch or after lunch, be happy because this 10 o'clock sharp, yeah, it might work with some German visitors, but believe me, the other guys, you know, they get hooked up, they meet friends, they stand in the hallway discussing 50 minutes with here and there, and they will show up 1 hour, 50 minutes later than expected. So be easy on the planning before lunch, after lunch. Be flexible because your time schedule will be corrupt after 15 minutes of the start of the first day at the trade fair.
Especially when you schedule these things. Usually you schedule them like Teams meetings, but jumping from one booth to another is not a click of a link. That can be 1 kilometer of walking through filled hallways, where the probability is very high that you meet someone.
Yeah, and don't expect to discuss too many secrets on a trade fair. Then you have to rent a room and step outside. But another thing that is great with trade fairs, if you're selling stuff, not castings, to combine buyer, producer, yourself. That's great. You can be there, you know, you read the menu, you order your red wine and a nice steak, and they are talking and doing the things that, and you're just there. I mean, that's the way to run it, I would say. Would also like to reconnect a little bit. We're trying to speak about uniqueness here. The conferences you are referring to, like door and panels and stuff, why not go to a battery management conference, for example? I mean, you're a foundry, you're casting things. If you have some novelty to come with, why don't you be there? Because the master designers, the head of design, and the chief designers, they are on those conferences. And these are the guys that are going. You want them to understand what you are actually bringing to the market and how it will help them in their work. So even if it's only 75 people on one of these, it's more worth it than stand on a GIFA show with 4,000 visitors, where 1 promille might be your target group. And the probability that they will find you without any pre-work is absolutely null. So specialized conferences, good way to go.
Especially with this development, you need some changes from the design owner. And what better way to directly talk to the head of the design unit, because he can initiate these changes and talk to that. If you want to have to go through the portal, through some purchaser who has no clue about what can be done, that's a forever going way, and it gets more complex. But be there, presented, and start the discussion afterwards. That's a perfect way of business development.
Yeah, I mean, you're standing there with the thing you have in a physical meeting. You probably have a casting. It's not the same casting, but you can stand there and point at the draft angle, because this guy that you're meeting, he might be an electronic engineer. He has a problem with connectivity in the electrical engine. People learn from the sound, the smell, the view, and then 70% of all our communication is non-spoken. So it is the broadest channel in our lives is actually the personal meeting. And people buy from people they like. In the end, it kind of starts here and it kind of ends here. But in between, you have all this digital stuff that we're getting into now.
Why don't you start with the first channel?
Facebook, their viewer under 30 years old, is for old guys like me. Not even Fabian is active on Facebook. I think he has it for mom and dad and relatives. The best use of Facebook is for, I would say, very local stuff, like you want to recruit someone. Then you might have use of it. But I would say for marketing purposes in the die casting industry, no chance, no way. If you're doing home alarm, for example, then it's great to have the banners, you know, in the tabby community as I belong to here. But selling, reel castings through Facebook, difficult and probably not very effective.
No, it's more of a recruiting tool. Or, for example, you're sponsoring the local football club and showcasing the journey with the football club and the company and these things, and then using as a recruitment tool for exhibitions when you want to have someone that, as you said, probably above 30 and recruit them.
And then we're at it. Why don't you take the next one, Fabian?
Yeah, take the young version of Facebook, Instagram.
Ooh.
Also, it's the same approach that you want to use it to talk to people that you want to recruit. In comparison to Facebook, Instagram is the way more challenging platform as there's so much content on there. So you have to find your strategy that sticks out, is bold, and people like to click on it. Don't just upload the PDFs of your job listing or put in the link in the description and they are not clickable on Instagram.
We will wrap this up a little bit when we have gone through all the digital channels about these 5 seconds and 20 seconds. But I think there's a lessons to be learned there. But I mean, let's jump to the next one. We have LinkedIn. Heard about LinkedIn, Fabian?
Uploading a bit there. And also the Goldcasting podcast has a LinkedIn account. It's worth following. We're now hitting the 400 subscriber mark. So
maybe we're a little bit important from time to time.
Yeah. So LinkedIn is both. You can use it for recruiting to create brand awareness, but also for business development, as the head of design from the battery thermal management we talked earlier is very likely also on LinkedIn.
I have mixed emotions about LinkedIn. I think it's a great tool. I think it's the sales navigator. It works fine. You actually sort people. If you put 200 euros into it, you get a great spread by doing a sponsored thing. You can really reach out with news, novelties, and as such. However, I have a feeling, I mean, it started like a career tool for people to find people and people to find new jobs. I think that functionality is diluted more and more, that it has become a sales platform. And I have 4 or 5 invites every week from people that want to sell tools, screwdrivers or lubrication for die casting machines. And I'm not even a production guy. So I mean, one has to be pretty sharp on what you're sending out. It has to be for your audience. Getting a couple of thousand followers is not hard work, but it's a work you have to do for a couple of years. But once you have it, you have a great platform for communication, I would say.
I can give you some insights into what I'm doing as I'm uploading 3-4 times a week on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is something that highly values consistency. So if you skip a week, you fall down month of work you put in. So skipping 1 week and last half year was worthless. But it's exceptionally well in comparison, for example, to Instagram. When you upload an article or post on LinkedIn, and in the first hour, people read through it. It doesn't measure the likes and clicks. It measures the time spent on the article. So just having a lot of clicks doesn't mean that it generates a huge audience. It's about the time people spend on that. And if you generate a good time, then 50, 80,000 views for one post is no problem. And that boost continues for the following articles. So you can generate a real content machine for you and get a high organic reach without being necessary to buy a lot of ads.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to repeat that all of these things we're discussing when it comes to digital marketing. Repetition is the key.
About repetition, not copying. So if you re-upload old articles, you will get a hefty penalty. So you have to put it in a new form, different aspects, rewrite it a bit, so that it's factually a new article, especially with all the AI content. But that's something we have our own separate podcast episode about that will come up.
Oh, yes, it will come up, which is super interesting. And old people like me probably need to watch out. Otherwise, it will be a humanoid sitting here instead with glasses and saying, "Hello, I'm Staffan." And probably talk without swearing, and he won't make any typos. Yeah, we have one left, TikTok. So interesting. Must admit, I don't know much about TikTok, but in this house, at least 3 out of 5 people has TikTok, and it's the main channel for people, I would say predominantly 13 to 22 years old. That's probably where you find the bulk.
Yeah,
it's super
more
fast.
younger, especially when you look for someone to start an apprenticeship or something.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be on TikTok. And a hard truth is that the content that you can put on LinkedIn is vastly different than the content that you can put on TikTok.
I would like to mention a few things about TikTok app. I think a Chinese proverb that goes like this: the best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago or today. What we're looking at here, we say, yeah, but we're not recruiting any 17 years old, so we can skip TikTok. But where are you in 5-10 years? Because that 17-year-old, he's 23, 24 then. And all of a sudden, he might be at the university. And people live for quite a long time. And many founders have been around for a long time. And if you really buy into this marketing stuff that we're talking about, one has to actually, even if everything is super fast and blah, 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 and 5 seconds and 20 seconds and all these buzzwords, it is a long process. And we don't know in this room in 3 years or 5 years what kind of channels will be the ones to use. I can bet at least this little finger that it might not be TikTok, it might not be Instagram. Something new comes. We have seen the emerge of new channels all the time. It will be different variants, but being there is the important thing over time.
But the important thing is, why do you think Facebook is the old people social media platform?
Because it's our platform.
Exactly. As you were joining, it was the latest shit.
I had hair.
Yeah. And then you stay on the platform. And
Exactly.
someone who loves TikTok stays on the platform, even though he's considered now too old for that platform, or whatever too old is. And TikTok does one thing entirely different. TikTok takes away the ability to choose something. It just sends you content. There's no need to follow or click somewhere. You open the app and content comes in, and it's a constant spiral. And that's highly addictive.
It is kind of sad that you let an algorithm based on what you actually stop for a few seconds and then scroll further. That algorithm is doing the choosing for you, what you want to see to get a dopamine kick. I mean, where's the free choice in a human being?
But the algorithm does an excellent job in presenting content that you like.
Yeah, I have free addicts in this house, when it comes to TikTok. Dopamine kick junkies, But I mean, I look at my fair share of, you can guess what. We're speaking about fishes and birds and small deers that are falling from left to right. And that leads us into the next one, YouTube. But before entering YouTube, where did we start? We start with the trade fairs, we start with the conferences, the interpersonal meeting, and then we moved into the digital thing, and then all of a sudden we're at YouTube. And there Fabian spoke about the 3 levels, the triangle. So introducing YouTube has to be under the theme of educational.
Exactly.
Why is that? Because YouTube is the second largest search engine on this planet.
And it's best connected to the biggest search engine in the world, which is owned all by Google.
Yeah, so you kind of get 2 for the price
also,
of 1.
with all these social media platforms, we just scroll through, the attention span getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So your 40-page white paper on a new technology will be downloaded and never opened. When you want to have information, you will go to YouTube, type in what you're looking for, and have someone explain it to you in a nice video.
Now we have to put this in the context. Imagine now that, I'm sorry, most of you guys know this, but we try to take it from A to Z. You have something new. You want to sell something new. First thing you want to do is create curiosity. What do? You invest in your trade fair, and you invest in digital marketing. All this LinkedIn, all this TikTok, all this Instagram is just to people to understand, there's a company around doing something around, I don't know, spray chemicals or metallurgy or a new die casting machine, whatever it is. All of a sudden, these things could move around. And then it's like fishing, you throw that bait maybe 12 times in front of a pike. Time number 13, he bites it. He starts to recognize. He starts to get curious. What is this? There's a storytelling. Okay. I better check this out. And then you forget about it. And then something happened. We have a problem with the spray system, blah, blah, blah. Somewhere a rebell starts to ring. and you feel, I need to learn more. What do? You remember, it was something Comtech Reocasting. You go into YouTube, you type it in, and boom, you are in a video explaining in 2 minutes, this is Reocasting. And you have the decision point. Was this in line what I was looking for my problems or not? Yes or no? If it's yes, it's highly likely that the guy you want to hook up with and to do business with will watch your video number 2, 7, 11, 13, 8, and in a random pattern like this, depending on what he's trying to solve. So maybe I'm the old guy here, but I think one should never, ever underestimate the power of YouTube. Because when you are there, you have gone from curiosity to an active decision making to move further in the relationship with your company by learning more. This is the key point. Have you reached that point? You will have a meeting at the next trade fair. You will have a Teams meeting in the next week. You will start to discuss parents, effective, effects, cost, lead time, all the stuff that you want to discuss because you want to sell something. And that's the beginning of the sales process. So YouTube, for me, is like the gatekeeper into the sales process.
And you missed 2 points. If you compare YouTube to a conference where you present a topic, it's a high effort to be at the conference, to enter it, to present it, and you have one chance presenting it. YouTube works 24/7 all year long. It doesn't matter if it's 3 in the morning, 12 at night on the weekend. There is someone be able to watch your content. It's like a can of ravioli in the back of your cupboard. You have it always there because you never know when you need it. And that video, once produced, will stay there.
Yeah.
And another thing is that if someone watched 3, 4, 5 videos of you, he already has built the trust. So it's like a hot lead you have never heard about when he contacts you. He's already willing to do something with you.
And he has understood a lot of things. I mean, in the 90s, when I started in our industry, you always had to start from zero with everybody. They were sent by some boss that actually knew something, and then you had to build them up to a certain level and then explain why your solution is that smart. When it comes to you after, looking at 15, 20 minutes of video, they already know your keywords and where we are in the system.
And also it's perfect in your leads to sales process to qualify people. Because if they're really interested and say, hey, that's the topic, usually we have a summary of our product spectrum or latest news, perfect for what you're asking for here, check that video out. And then you have the meeting with that person and he didn't take the time to watch the video. He's not too interested.
You spoke about the canned ravioli. I love ravioli, but canned ravioli is not really my thing. But it is a very, very good picture. When we started Comtech, we did super simple, super easy videos with a cell phone. And we said, okay, let's do it. We're Foundry guys. We do it for other Foundry guys. And these babies has run 38,000 times in 4 years. I mean, imagine the information flow, 38,000 clicks. Even if it's just 1 minute, it's hours and hours and hours that people actually learned about Reocasting. So I mean, that can of ravioli, it is a great investment, but you will not get any traffic if you don't use the other channels, because you need to create a curiosity to make them to do the active choice of clicking on you on YouTube.
No. Also, it's like everything. So YouTube, it's not a secret hack. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. So people know about, put out content, and the level of entry continuously rises. So it might not be just that you can use the cell phone and record it. Now you need to have the good microphones and also some lighting that it looks decent, but you have to increase the production value. And if you go back, for example, what we do with the podcast, our main platform is YouTube, where we now have over 50,000 people watching our content. In the last 1 year, we had over 500 hours of people watching our podcast just on YouTube.
Which is very incredible. And we're honored. I mean, I shouldn't make a joke about it. I mean, I got 3 guys coming in on another show, shaking my hand and say, thanks for the podcast. I mean, I a little bit stumble about it, but these 3 guys...
Let me keep that in a perspective for a moment. 500 hours. If you take a 40-hour work week, these are 13 weeks fully packed, talking from morning to night with people who's got the time for that? But you can put it out, people enjoy it, people listen to it, and you're out there, even if they don't have now the intention to buy something, you're always in their mind, and you're along in their daily life. If they click on YouTube, watching something, looking for something on Google, bam, you're popping up from time to time, and you're in their universe, and that's the amazing thing. And now there's a small commercial break. That's what we also do with our sponsored episodes. Give companies that want to enter the foundry world or want to show new technologies a way into the second largest search engine in the world, in a way that people enjoy listening to.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with all the channels or even podcast is another channel is to drag people to be curious enough to take the time to educate themselves. I mean, that's the key point of this. And one reflection I have is also that how do we consume different things? And I know that when I want to learn everything about, I don't know, rabbit shooting or something I haven't done. Yeah, could be something else than fishing and hunting. Occasionally, I try to do cookies for Christmas. Then I also watch YouTube. Then I sit down and I'm concentrated. So that's for me, and I don't think I'm super unique in this. So then you sit down, you have a cup of coffee, and you listen in 2, 5, 15, 20 minutes, never more than 20 minutes. But the others, I mean, when I consume LinkedIn, it is in that 3 minutes between two meetings. The other channels too. I mean, they are more. You do it on the bus. You check. I mean, what's happened on LinkedIn today? Then you do it on the bus 3-4 minutes, or when you are typically waiting for something. And what people are then referring to, Fabian, is they're looking for amusement, something interesting, something that really gets them going. So this is something I think one should also emphasize on that the others are just curiosity, attracting, making you do that cup of coffee, sit down on YouTube. And to all you guys that are selling nice looking videos, I know that you're calling me 3 times a week and saying that your video channel on YouTube is looking a little bit like, could need an update. And I know it looks like crap, but again, 38,000 times in 3-4 years. I mean, seems to be working.
Yeah, I think if you do the same thing today, that will not work anymore, as now you already have the history track, as it was easier to enter. Now you need a different production value, and you could also see it with our podcast, where we started and we constantly improved our quality to make it more interesting to sit down and watch that 30, 40 minute talking about a topic and learning 1 or 2 new things.
This is so important because now we've gone through a lot of channels. We have been discussing this. Of course, me and Fabian loves this. I mean, this is our I don't know, hobby, sickness, interest. You can brand it any way you like. But now we have been talking about crazy ideas that people have been using. We have talked about channels. Next time we are going to talk more about the storytelling and what to actually fill in the channel. I mean, now you have a water pipe. Okay, are we going to pour red wine, hydrogen, gas, water? What are we going to use this pipe for? So this is something we will dig into a little bit deeper, and how do we actually create stuff that is unique in a very, very conformal world? Because let's face it, everything looks the same very quickly, especially when you add some AI into it. And how do you actually stick out from this, 5,000 herrings swimming, and you want to see one red herring in this big pile of fishes? I mean, how do you become the red herring? You might say a lot of things that, yeah, but that's something we only can do and blah, 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 and we can hire a PR firm and all that. But I mean, it is a work to be done that involves creativity, brand recognition, all these fancy things. But how do you actually do it? I mean, if you're sitting there with a limited budget, you need to do it yourself.
Also, I want to add to that, when hiring a PR firm, that's great to get you started, but it has to be you being able to produce it. Let's face it, if you're doing something like the German Foundry Association, we are having a podcast now. Half a year later, 1 episode is online. Please don't start things like that if you don't have a plan to continue it. So you need to be able to start something and then continue it, that you've been able to reach people and to be taken serious. because now it's something like I did, laughing about things. It costs them a lot of effort to do, but it's useless as it's just one episode.
I would say my personal feeling around this is keep it simple. I mean, repetition and uniqueness goes a long way. You don't need the fancy stuff. I mean, if you really have something and you have a uniqueness, you have something that people are interested in. I mean, then you can sit like me in a black T-shirt doing a podcast. Hopefully, I mean, there is a great thinker here in this country called Alexander Bard. I love to hate him because he's also every time he's right. It just takes a little bit of time, and he's speaking about that content is the new king, and commercials doesn't work as they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So if you don't have a content that is appealing, create curiosity or amusement, don't bother. Then if the content is wrapped up pretty simple in the beginning, you might only post every week and so forth. I mean, again, I'm there with my Chinese tree. Get started. Don't make it too complicated. But set a time, set an alarm. Every first day at 16 o'clock, I'm doing something. And I have something in mind that I want to tell my customers, my audience. European car industry is suffering because they're always trying to do the perfect product, and now they're losing to everybody. They slashed the volumes with 50%. And what if they were a little bit less being perfect? Because perfect cost. You will never get started if you're searching for the perfect solution, the perfect video, the perfect guest in your podcast, the perfect everything. You have to start somewhere.
Also, to add to that, I'm digging now a bit in my history. When I started putting content out on LinkedIn, it was just curiosity. And I uploaded some short text and then, okay, I saw got some recognition. Then I tried different things. And if I would have planned how to do it, in the meanwhile, the algorithm had 3 major changes. So when you want to have the perfect thing, you're now 3 episodes down and it doesn't work anymore. So you have to start something, adjust, start, adjust, start, adjust. And that's how you get forward. And that's how my newsletter came, how this podcast came. It has to be something that you're passionate about to talk about. Because let's face it, 2 years in a row, every Tuesday, there's the newsletter. Now, since 1 year, every second week, we're putting out a podcast episode.
I can give you a real live example of this. We were so proud at Comtech. We as you know, we have a solution that's pretty sustainable. It helps people being sustainable. And we were posting a lot of things on LinkedIn. We had like everything between 800 and 2,200 clicks on these things. And it could be anything from, how to make a heatsink or one-pagers and stuff. We felt that, doing good. And then, I don't know why, I made a very short 2-pager about the hidden carbon dioxide in cars, car production. 78,000 clicks. It outnumbered everything we have done with a factor of 60 or something. So it is still clicking out there. And we were happy. We were sharing and said, oh, now our market is starting. Look at this. I mean, we're world famous about the sustainable people. And then we didn't post anything for a half year. Now it's dead. And if you would ask someone of those 78,000 people, yeah, you read something about Goldcasting 2 years ago. And they would say, what? So I agree with you, Fabian, this repetition thing and all that stuff. But
yeah, also bringing different aspects to the same topic because everybody has a different view. And if you align it, then people feel what you're talking about. And that's why for content creation, be yourself, because AI can produce whatever information you want. It's a great research tool, but AI is not you.
It's not the creator.
It can be the creator, but then everything sounds the same. And then you're one of the 5,000 herrings. But you are unique. And if you cannot transport that in a message, then you get massively downvoted. And also all the platforms now started to filter out these AI contents that you get less and less views.
Another pep talk I want to give to a listener that feels like, yeah, I got 3 hours a week. I really want to do this, but yeah, I have limitations and the budget is 0 and blah, blah, blah. It is under the limitation that the master appears, is a saying. And it kind of holds something true that you can master this and you can develop this into mastering. Even if you have only 3 hours a week and you just have a cell phone, but you feel the urge to do something. I mean, start with that because that limitation will probably make you, I don't know, make 20 seconds shorts. without any editing. You have to do 10. They have to do it 10 times to choose not the least worst one. You put it out there, but you do it every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Wednesday, whatever. You will actually go a long way.
What I'm doing is I'm unable to write a newsletter in 1 hour, but I can write 5 newsletters in 3 hours. So box them together, and then you have 1 month of content because you're in the zone, you're focused, and this time boxing really helps me because everything is set up, and then you record for whatever, and then just put it out and try, adjust, do it again.
That's not a pep talk. That's more a thing I do. I use this. It's a pencil. I know it's old school. But the thing is, when do I get my ideas? Well, when I'm sitting driving my car 6:15 to Skillingaryd, a gloomy morning, just coming back from a hunt, typically, I actually record myself when I have an idea that, why don't we, 10 seconds? Because then I remember, because I forget it. And then a week later, you're sorting your pictures in your cell phone. Yeah, that idea. Then you actually do something, you're hammering an email to Fabian or something, and then it's either killed or it's nurtured. But I think this is the thing with creation and the creativity. That one guy I know, he's a masterclass copy and marketing guy. He's the father of many things in Sweden that now is in the Swedish vocabulary. And one of his best ideas came when he was ironing his shirt. What if he didn't, put it on a piece of paper with a pen? I don't know. I think this is so important to understand that creativity and uniqueness, that comes unexpected. You cannot throw in people like we do in our industry. When we have a problem, then we have a meeting, and typically all the time it's the same people in the meeting, regardless what we discuss. And then you're sitting there for 2 hours and trying to define, okay, what should we have for the trade fair and blah, blah, blah. For one thing, we are not at Comtech, which is a great feeling that we try to be more creative and do something else. But then we have great things on our trade fairs.
Creativity is basically like a muscle. You have to train it, and the more you do it, the more opportunity for content you see. A few weeks ago, I was sitting at a wine tasting, and they were talking about the wine industry, and I saw the parallels to the downturn of the automotive industry in Europe, and they ended up in a newsletter article about the similarities between the wine industry and the foundry industry and what you can learn from that, because they haven't a crisis mode for way longer.
Yeah. Did you know for a fact, if you look at research about the brain, that creative people actually have a blocking in the frontal lobe? Because normal people, but less creative people, typical engineering. Yeah, we can talk about personal categorization for many hours here. But when they see a brick, they say it's a brick. And if someone asks them, okay, what do you use for a brick for? They will go, we're building a house, of course. The logical, boom, fastest logical path. A creative person doesn't have this functionality in the brain, so they will start to say, yeah, you can build a house, but you can also have it in the bookshelves to hinder the books from falling aside. And by the way, I have a table with 3 legs that are different lengths, so I will put it under there, and then they will invent a gazillion of ways of using a brick. I can throw it in the head of my neighbor because his dog is shouting every day. But so they actually miss this typical engineering thing in the frontal lobe. Leading me back to, why is the die casting industry so bad in marketing and such things? Well, because it's about creativity. And what kind of people have we recruited to the die casting industry and the automotive industry? Well, 99.98% engineers that are super effective and goes from point A to B without inventing a bookshelf support by using a brick. So there you go. So now when we have this problem that we have new designs, we have EVs, we need creativity in the design work and the production work, and everything is changing. We miss out, 5,000 creative people to turn this around.
Exactly. And then also think about that meeting. If you put 10 of these people in their mid-50s that have heard about TikTok, deciding on the new TikTok content strategy for the next 2 months, that will be a funny meeting.
And then when it shows up that they had 13 clicks on LinkedIn after spending 200 hours on discussing the wording in the ad on LinkedIn. I mean, do you see the disappointment? They will say, oh, this is bullshit. Let's go back just running Eurogas.
Or they will spend something like 50,000 euros on an image campaign video, which is backlinked at a website, but nobody actually watches it. It doesn't do you anything.
Can I kill those for a minute? I love them.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I was a purchaser before and worked Ericsson and stuff, and then people wanted to show that they were hype. So they showed up, and then you always had to look at the video. And the funny thing, those videos still look the same. You have now a drone flying over the factory, and you can see that they have digitally painted it white because it's grayish and dirty. And then it is about the laboratories and the machines, and there's always something burning or pouring when it comes to metal. But in the end, it's so fun. It should always be a manager in a tie and a shirt, and then very often a lab coat, leaning over some poor guy trying to do something with the part in the end, and like, we are a team. I can tell you, they have never been in the same team. and you're sitting there like,
you can use video to do a great company presentation.
Yeah, you should.
But it's not that type of video. That money is spent somewhere else way better.
Yeah. Because again, I mean, they probably cost you 50,000 euros doing one of these video productions. And the thing is, and then you understand that people don't care. They want to know more about our facility in Brazil. Do we need another video? 50,000 euros for Brazil.
Yeah, and then you have the same video, just with the Brazilian people.
Yeah.
Not more information.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. It's so incredibly funny when non-creative organizations try to stay tuned. I mean, you cannot put makeup on a pig. It doesn't look better than a pig, I mean, Miss Pig and the Muppet Show, maybe. You have to be what you are.
And for the content, I would like to give you one sentence to think about, and it's: don't think about what you want to tell the people. Think about what the people want to hear. Totally different perspective. You are serving the content to them, so it should be about them, not about you.
Oh, great words. I kind of think this concludes the episode, actually. As you clearly understand, we love this. I mean, we can talk about this for ages. I'm the only one in the family that turns higher volume when commercials are on the television sets, because I'm a sucker for marketing. But if you think that we have been very blah 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 today, next episode we are actually going to conclude and show some evidence of this. We have a sponsored episode, and in this episode we have a guy that has worked his channels and done a tremendous job since, I think they have been working since 2018 with this. Speaking about planting trees, it's been 6 years, and being very, very skilled and walking this path, and the problems they started to have in COVID-19 and how they actually got out of these problems with using these channels differently and so forth. So stay tuned for the episode. That is going to be an eye-opener for many of you that are complaining, whining, discussing, and never planting that tree when it comes to attracting talents. That's going to be interesting. We had done many guests, but that was the top 5 for me, I can tell.
So stay tuned. If you haven't watched the first video about marketing and marketing stunts, go back to the video. I will link it here. And then we see us in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye. Sayonara. Wiedersehen.